Paultons Park is arguably one of the best theme parks in the UK, making its debut back in 1983. When this park first opened, it was most well known for their gardens. However, almost 40 years later, it now has some of the best attractions in the country. However, where is this theme park located? Paultons Park is located in Hampshire, England, and this is actually a relatively easy park to get to. The reason why I say this is due to it only being around a half an hour drive away from Southampton. This is the closest city to the park and actually looks quite nice. However, in terms of the park itself, their main roller coaster is Storm Chaser, built back in 2021 by Matt Rides. This is one of their spinning coasters, and after nearly 50 rides in it, I can safely say this is one of the best coasters in the country. To start off with, it has a great soundtrack along with a decent queue line. However, once you board the coaster itself, it just moves this ride to the next level. The first drop is great in the back row, and you also get some decent spins. Overall, this makes my personal favourite ride at the park and just a great coaster. Another thrill ride at the park is Cobra, and until recently I wasn't actually a huge fan of this coaster. However, after 6 more rides on my recent visit, I have to say that it's actually a really fun roller coaster. It's got some great airtime on both the first drop and also the hills. However, what really surprised me about this coaster were the head choppers. This was most notable towards the end of the ride and were honestly just amazing. Another great ride at the park is Fly Up the Pterosaur, and just like most rides at the park, the theme was some of the best in the country. Along with this, it's got some great trains which really improved the experience. However, the ride itself definitely didn't disappoint. It's got a great first drop which can often give above airtime. Overall, it's a fun coaster and definitely something to experience. Riding exhaust Fly Up the Pterosaur's Velociraptor. Built back in 2016 by Vekoma, this is one of their family boomerang coasters, and even though it doesn't look like much, it's actually a really fun roller coaster. It's got some great airtime along with a decent queue line. However, by far the best part of the ride has to be the backwards section. This is one of the best in the country and just makes for a great overall ride. Right on the other side of the park is the Caterpillar coaster. To start off with, this has some great theming in both the area and also the ride itself. However, just like most rides at the park, the coaster itself is actually really fun. It's got some decent turns along with some airtime moments. However, for the best ride, I'd personally recommend the back row. This makes for some great airtime down the first drop and just a great family coaster. The newest ride at the park comes under the name of Farmar Flyer, and of my 2 rides I can safely say this is one of the best family coasters in the country. It's got some nice theming along with some decent turns. However, what really surprised me was the theming. This was most notable in the queue line and was honestly just amazing. The last roller coaster at the park is a kids coaster and comes under the name of Dino Chase, and even though it's only a kids coaster, it's actually one of the best ones I've experienced. To start off with, it's got some great theming along with some decent animatronics. However, by far the best part of this ride is the train. This is one of the best themed anywhere in the country and was great to see. However, the ride itself is still quite fun. It's got a decent hill which can often give above airtime. However, besides the coasters, the park does also have some great attractions. Some of my favourites include the Cyclonator. This was my personal favourite flat ride at the park and was honestly just amazing. It's got some great theming along with a decent soundtrack. Overall, this is a fun ride and definitely something to experience. Right on the other side of the park is Magma, and even though it only reaches a height of 82 feet, it's still a great ride. You get some great views over the park and also the surrounding area. Along with this, it's got some decent drops which can often give above airtime. Right next door to Magma is the Edge. To start off with, you get some great airtime whilst heading over the hill and also some decent spins. And even though this is the case, the ride can also be quite rough. However, if you put this aside, it's still a fun ride and definitely something to experience. Another great ride at the park is Windmill Towers, and just like Magma, it made it with the tallest drop tower. However, it's still a fun ride. You get some decent airtime and also some great views over the area. However, what really surprised me was its theming. This was honestly just amazing, was great to experience. Right on the other side of the park is the Sky Swinger. This is a fun ride with some decent views over the area, and even though the ride cycle was one of the shortest at the park, it was still great to experience. Something else to point out was that this also offered 2 different types of seats. Overall, this was a fun ride, however, I wouldn't rush to it. Another decent attraction at the park is Temple Heights, and of the 2 I've experienced, this was by far my favourite. Just like most rides at the park, it's got some great theming and also offers some great views over the area. However, even if this is the case, the ride can also be quite slow. One of the park's water rides comes under the name of Raging River Ride Log Flume, and even though you can find this now at many parts around the country, it was still great to experience. It's got some great drops and always some decent airtime. As much as it's nothing to shout about, it's still a fun ride. Another water ride is Buffalo Falls, and this was by far my favourite water ride at the park. To start with, it's got some great theming in both the queue line and also the ride itself. However, the ride doesn't disappoint either. It's got some great airtime and also some decent drops. One of the most themed rides at the park is the Grand Prix Rabbit Sailing Club, and even though this is one of the smaller attractions of the park, it's still a fun ride. It's got some great theming along with some decent spins. Something else to point out is that this is actually one of the longest rides at the park. Overall, it's a fun attraction with some great theming. The last ride at the park which I wanted to talk about was the Rio Grande train, and I have to say, it's actually one of my favourite attractions at the park. You get some great views over Tornado Springs with also some nice theming. However, what really surprised me was the soundtrack. This was honestly just amazing and made for one of the best rides at the park. However, in terms of entertainment, Paultons Park mainly focuses on shows, and on my visit I only actually got to watch one show. However, even though it was based towards the younger audience, it was still great to watch. However, in terms of other information from our visit in Paultons Park, I'd post try arriving at the park at least 15 minutes for the advertised opening time. This can then allow you to get into your first attraction and hopefully be near the front of the queue. However, in terms of what ride to head to first, I'd post recommend heading straight to Storm Chaser. This is due to it's been the most popular ride at the park and also often having a queue. However, after this, I'd post recommend taking a look around the park and experiencing some more of their attractions. However, after this, you'll likely be looking for some lunch. And in terms of what time to eat, I'd post recommend eating at either either 11:30 or 1:30. This will then allow you to hopefully be near the front of the queue. However, in terms of where to eat, I'd personally recommend eating either the Route 83 diner or at the coffee station. However, after the initial lunch, I'd personally recommend taking another look around the park and experiencing some more of their attractions. But once you come to the end of the day, you'll likely be looking for some merchandise, and just like most parks in the country, this is definitely one of their strong points. However, in terms of how long you need to spend at the park, I'd personally recommend visiting for around a day. This will then allow you to get done most of the attractions at the park and even get some re-rides. However, what are my overall thoughts on Paultons Park? Paultons Park is one of my favourite theme parks in the country. With some of the best theming in Europe to some of the best attractions in the country, this is honestly a great park to visit. However, what are your thoughts on Paultons Park? Make sure to leave any thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.